All right, we are rolling. Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. It is the week of February 15th to February 22nd, 2026. And if you've been following the headlines or even just looking out the window in certain parts of the world, you might have noticed a pretty big shift.
Yeah, you really can't miss it right now.
Right. We aren't just looking at, code on a screen anymore. We are looking at actual cranes, concrete, and copper wire.
It's a very physical week. I think that's the best way to describe what we're seeing. For the last few years, AI has been this ethereal thing, right?
Just living in the cloud.
Exactly. It lives in the cloud. It lives on your phone. But this week, the updates we pulled from MagaliLabs.news really suggest that the industry is just slamming into the physical world with incredible force.
It really is. And our mission today is to unpack a massive stack of sources from MagaliLabs.news. We aren't just reading the headlines, we are connecting the dots. We're talking about billion-dollar infrastructure bets that literally rival the GDP of small nations.
Huge numbers.
We're talking about a security breach at Microsoft that is, frankly, a CIO's worst nightmare. And later on, we are going to talk about a marketplace called Rent a Human, where, and I am not joking, the bots are the ones doing the hiring.
Yeah, that story is going to require some serious unpacking. It completely flips the traditional labor model on its head.
Totally. But before we get into the heavy machinery and our new robot bosses, we do have to get through the housekeeping. We are trying to build something sustainable here, and we really need your help. If you are listening to this on audio, you should know we have a full video version on YouTube. Please go over there, smash that like button, and subscribe.
The algorithm is a very hungry beast.
It is. Your engagement feeds it. And for those of you who want to read along, or if you want to see the charts and the raw data we are discussing today, you need to bookmark the website.
Yeah, definitely check this out.
I want to be very clear on the spelling here because we always get emails about this. The website is imaginari.com or imaginari.net. That is IMAGINARI.com. 2 I's at the end. Imaginari.
It's really where the deep dive happens. I mean, the show is the conversation, but the website is the actual library.
Exactly. And speaking of libraries, our source material today comes from MagaliLabs.news. They are the ones aggregating this absolute fire hose of information for us. And finally, if you love what we do, if you love these weekly breakdowns, you can support the team directly. Buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/imaginari. The link is right down in the description.
We run on caffeine and large language models, so literally every bit helps.
All right, let's get into it. Section 1, the infrastructure gold rush. We've been hearing about AI infrastructure for years, but this week it feels like the center of gravity shifted. We aren't looking at Silicon Valley.
No, we're not.
We are looking at India.
We are. And to really understand why this matters, you have to wrap your head around the sheer scale of the numbers we are seeing. For a long time, the dominant narrative was that the U.S. designs the chips, Taiwan manufactures them, and the rest of the world just sort of consumes the software wrappers. That narrative is completely dead. This week, we saw the Adani Group pledge $100 billion.
Let's just pause on that for a second. $100 billion.
Correct. And that is specifically allocated for AI data centers and the energy infrastructure required to actually run them. But they weren't alone. Reliance Industries committed $110 billion to their own tech ambitions.
So we have two Indian conglomerates committing over $200 billion combined. And the sources from Magali Labs note that India is targeting roughly $200 billion in total infrastructure investment by 2028. My question is, why right now? And why specifically India? Is this just about, cheap labor or something?
No, this is absolutely nothing to do with cheap labor. This is about sovereign AI. This is a term you are going to hear constantly in 2026.
Sovereign AI.
Right. Think about it from the perspective of a nation state. If artificial intelligence is basically the electricity of the 21st century, do you really want to import that electricity from a tech company in San Francisco?
Probably not.
Exactly. Do you want your banking system, your healthcare network, and your defense grid running on servers that you don't even physically control? Servers that are subject to U.S. export controls or just sudden shifts in foreign policy?
You want to own the generator.
You want to own the generator, you want to own the grid, and you want to own the fuel. Adani and Reliance are essentially building the sovereign cloud for India. They want the compute to reside on Indian soil, strictly subject to Indian laws. And the scale of this investment, that $100 billion, is what it actually takes to build out the physical layer today. We were talking about gigawatts of power.
And speaking of the money, it's not just domestic capital either. We saw Blackstone making a huge move. They're backing a company called NISA with up to $1.2 billion.
This is a crucial signal. Blackstone's what we call smart money. They are private equity. They generally do not bet on venture capital style risks. They bet on predictable cash flow. They bet on hard infrastructure.
A safe bets.
Right. So when Blackstone moves from investing in software wrappers to investing in the pipes, which is exactly what NISA represents, it tells you the industry is maturing. NISA isn't building a fun new chatbot. They are building the platforms that actually manage the heavy AI workloads. They are the plumbing.
But you can build the coolest data center in the world, you can buy all the expensive GPUs, and you can still totally fail if you don't have the juice. Let's talk about the power bottleneck.
Yeah, this is the hard physical limit. You simply cannot code your way out of physics. We saw Peak XV, which used to be Sequoia India, backing a startup called C2I. Now, usually, venture capitalists are chasing the next ChatGPT, but Peak XV is backing C2I specifically to solve power efficiency limits in data centers.
Because the grid is literally melting.
Because the grid is capped.
Yeah.
In many parts of the developed world, if you go to a local municipality and say you want to build a massive AI data center today, the power company will look at you and say, great, we can hook you up to the grid in 2031. Yeah. That timeline obviously does not work for the AI arms race.
Right.
So C2I is looking at ways to optimize the load, manage the extreme heat generation, and just squeeze more compute out of every single watt. It is very unsexy engineering, but it is literally the only way this industry keeps growing.
It's so interesting you mentioned the grid constraints, because we saw a very stark example of that in the West this week, too. There was a story about Digital Reef. They have a plan for this massive data center in Havering over in the UK. We were talking a £3.75 billion project.
A completely massive undertaking.
But it's hitting a brick wall. Local resistance, regulatory hurdles, zoning laws.
This right here is the great divergence. In the UK, and frankly in much of the US and Europe, you have this sort of vetocracy. Almost anyone can veto a major project. You have years of environmental impact studies. You have not in my backyard protests, endless city council meetings.
Right, it takes forever.
It takes decades. Digital Reef is trying to build critical national infrastructure, and they are bogged down fighting for basic permits. Meanwhile, over in India, because these are national champions like Adani, acting in total alignment with government Digital India initiatives, the concrete is already pouring.
So while the West argues about where to put the building, the East is just building it.
Precisely. And in 5 years, when everyone is scratching their heads asking why India has so much available compute and the UK is dealing with terrible latency and compute shortages, we can look right back at this exact week.
Let's move from the buildings themselves to the actual things inside the buildings, the hardware. We saw a really interesting Series A funding around $50 million go to a group of former SpaceX veterans.
I absolutely love this story.
Because they aren't building rockets anymore, they're building interconnects.
Right. So here is the core technical bottleneck that people don't always grasp. Everyone knows about the GPU, right? The brain of the AI. But when you train a massive frontier model, you aren't using one single GPU. You're using 20,000 of them, all wired together.
Okay.
The speed at which those individual chips talk to each other is called the interconnect speed.
And that's becoming the slow part.
It is rapidly becoming the slow part.
Right.
If your chip can perform a calculation in a single nanosecond, but it takes 10 nanoseconds to physically send that answer to the next chip in the cluster, your incredibly expensive GPU is basically sitting idle 90% of the time.
Ah, I see.
These SpaceX engineers are taking the rigorous, ultra-high-speed signal processing techniques they learned while building Starlink satellites in space, and they're applying it directly to data center cables on Earth. They're trying to reduce that latency between chips.
It's amazing how the top talent just recycles in tech, from going to Mars to optimizing the server room.
It's all just complex physics problems at the end of the day.
And then we have Grok. We have definitely talked about them on the deep dive before, but they're really making aggressive moves. They're challenging NVIDIA directly, but not on training the models. They're challenging them on inference speed.
We should define this clearly for the listeners because the distinction is everything. Training is the process of teaching the AI from scratch. It takes months, it costs billions of dollars, and NVIDIA owns that specific market completely. Inference, on the other hand, is what happens when you actually use the AI.
When I type a prompt?
Exactly. You type a prompt, it gives you an answer. That split-second text generation is inference.
And Grok is saying they are faster at that.
Grok says their specialized chips are significantly faster and much cheaper for that specific task. And if you are an enterprise business, inference makes up 95% of your actual computing cost. You train the model once, but you run it a million times a day for your end users. If Grok can shave 500 milliseconds off the response time, that is literally the difference between a voice agent feeling like a real human being and feeling like a clunky, broken answering machine.
Just one last hardware note before we move on because this one blew my mind. Freeform. They raised $67 million.
For autonomous laser manufacturing,
This feels like it strictly belongs in the sci-fi section.
it's the ultimate bridge between digital AI and physical reality. Freeform uses advanced AI to dynamically control laser deposition. Basically, they are 3D printing complex metal parts, things like rocket nozzles or automotive engine components. But the AI is actively monitoring the print in real time.
Like watching the metal melt.
Yeah, adjusting the laser millisecond by millisecond to ensure absolute perfect molecular structure as it prints. This is how we get the advanced physical hardware to build the agile robots we're going to talk about a bit later.
Okay, so the physical infrastructure is being built, the chips are getting faster, but what about the actual software? Because if you thought the hardware numbers were crazy, the pricing war happening in software right now is getting incredibly bloody. Let's move to section 2. The price war and model efficiency.
Bloody is absolutely the right word for it. We are seeing a race to the bottom that is just destroying traditional profit margins.
The big news here was Anthropic. They released Sonnet 4.6 this week.
A completely massive release for the industry.
The headline stat that everyone is looking at, it matches flagship performance, meaning it is basically as smart as GPT-4o or the big Gemini models, but it costs 20% of the previous price.
Just let that sink in. That is an 80% price reduction almost overnight. Think about the pure economics of that. Imagine if the price of gasoline for your car dropped 80% by tomorrow morning. It fundamentally changes what you can afford to build and run.
But what does this actually do to the business models? If I am OpenAI and I'm out there charging $20 a month for ChatGPT, and Anthropic comes along and says to developers, hey, we can do the exact same intelligence for pennies, doesn't the whole industry kind of collapse?
That doesn't collapse, but it rapidly commoditizes. Intelligence itself is becoming a raw commodity, exactly like bandwidth or electricity. The defensive moat, the competitive advantage for these companies, isn't just saying I have a smart model anymore.
Because everyone has a smart model now.
Exactly. The moat has to be something else. It puts immense crushing pressure on OpenAI to either release something exponentially smarter very soon, like a true GPT-5, or to find a completely different way to generate revenue.
It really seems like the trend isn't just about getting cheaper, it's also about being much smarter, about being smaller. We saw Alibaba release Qwen 3.5, and they are heavily leaning into this mixture of experts architecture.
This is a really important concept for people to understand because it is exactly how we are getting these massive efficiency gains right now. In a traditional, what we call a dense model, every single time you ask it a question, the entire artificial brain lights up. Every parameter is calculated. That takes a massive amount of compute.
It's like using a supercomputer to figure out what 2 plus 2 is.
Exactly. It's wildly inefficient. Qwen 3.5 uses a mixture of experts, or MOE. Imagine a massive room filled with highly trained specialists. You have a biologist, a poet, a Python coder, a historian. When you ask the system, hey, how do I write a Python script? A router, basically the gatekeeper, looks at your request and sends it only to the coder.
And the poet and the historian just stay asleep.
Right. They draw zero power. Qwen 3.5 might have a massive total parameter count on paper, but for any single word it generates, it only actively uses 17 billion parameters. That makes it incredibly fast and much, much cheaper to run. It isn't about having a bigger brain anymore. It's about having a better organized brain.
And we are seeing this exact trend towards small and specific popping up everywhere. NVIDIA launched the Nemotron 2 Nano, specifically tailored for the Japanese market.
A 9 billion parameter model. That is absolutely tiny by modern frontier standards. You could easily run that locally on a high-end laptop or even a future smartphone.
And the sovereign AI angle we talked about comes right back into play here, too.
It really does. The Japanese market has very specific cultural nuances, honorifics, and business etiquette. A massive bloated model trained mostly on American Reddit data is just not going to get that right consistently. A small, hyper-specialized model trained deeply on Japanese literature and local business correspondence will drastically outperform the giant American model for that specific local user base.
We see the exact same logic playing out in India with Sarvam AI.
Sarvam is doing absolutely critical work right now on tokenization.
Explain tokenization for us really quick.
Sure. Tokenization is basically how an AI breaks down human words into numbers that it can process. Western models are highly optimized for English. If you feed them Hindi text, they are horribly inefficient. They might break one single Hindi word into 5 or 6 separate tokens. That means it makes it basically 5 times more expensive to use the AI in Hindi than it does in English.
It's effectively a language tax.
It is exactly a tax on non-English speakers. Sarvam is fundamentally rebuilding the tokenizer and the underlying model to handle Indian languages natively and efficiently. And here's the kicker. They aren't targeting the guy walking around Mumbai with an iPhone 16. They're specifically targeting the 250 million feature phone users across India.
The people with the basic $20 phones.
Right. If you can get a voice-activated AI assistant to run efficiently enough that it works over a 2G or 3G network on a cheap feature phone, you suddenly unlock economic access and information for 250 million people. That is a massive demographic that Silicon Valley almost entirely ignores, but it is where the real global volume actually is.
So intelligence is getting cheaper, it's getting more localized, and it's getting way more efficient. That all sounds amazing, but then we have to talk about the enterprise reality check, because things are definitely breaking.
Yeah, this is definitely the cold shower segment of the week's news.
Let's talk about the Microsoft Copilot breach.
This is highly significant.
Reports came out that a major bug in Microsoft Copilot allowed the AI to index and then surface confidential internal emails that the specific user was definitely not supposed to see.
Let's walk through the exact kill chain here so people understand why this is so deeply dangerous for businesses. This is a fundamental failure of RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. In any normal corporate environment, you have strict permissions. The CEO can see the upcoming layoff list. The summer intern obviously cannot. Copilot is supposed to strictly respect those existing permissions.
Right, it's supposed to just inherit whatever access level you have when you log in.
Exactly. But what happened here was a complete failure in that inheritance layer. The indexing engine, the part of the AI that constantly reads all the SharePoint documents and emails to make them searchable, basically grabbed everything. And when a regular user asked a broad question, the AI answered using all the data it had ingested, but it failed to verify if the actual human asking the question had the clearance to see it.
So I could casually ask, what are the strategic plans for Q3? And it just cheerfully says, well, according to this private email from the CEO to the CFO, we are firing 20% of the staff next month.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And once that text is generated on the screen, the damage is completely done. This is the ultimate nightmare scenario for chief information officers. They are out there paying a premium, sometimes $30 per user per month, specifically for the ironclad promise of enterprise-grade security. If Microsoft can't guarantee that those internal data barriers hold, companies will just panic and turn these tools off completely.
It really undermines that whole enterprise-grade marketing pitch, but it isn't just a security issue, it's also a basic competence issue right now. We have this new term floating around, agent amnesia.
It's a huge, frustrating problem for developers right now. You are using an advanced AI coding agent, you are 10 minutes deep into a really complex debugging session, and suddenly the agent just forgets what file you even started working on.
It just completely loses the thread of the conversation.
It totally loses context. Technically, this is often due to strict context window limits or something called attention drift, where the model starts over-focusing on the most recent thing you just typed and completely forgets the initial set of instructions you gave it.
But there is a fix on the horizon. We saw Quoto release version 2.1 this week.
Quoto is boldly claiming they have largely cured agent amnesia. They released a specific stat, an 11% precision boost in long context tasks.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. 11%. That sounds, honestly, pretty modest.
Definitely sounds modest to a layman. But in advanced software engineering, an 11% improvement in precision is literally the difference between a tool that genuinely helps you and a tool that actively annoys you. If an AI agent writes code that is only 85% correct, you still have to spend 20 minutes hunting down the subtle bugs it introduced.
Which means it's faster to just write it yourself from scratch.
Exactly. But if it's 96% correct, you just briefly review it and push it to production. That 11% gap is what we call the trust valley. Quoto is apparently using a much more sophisticated memory architecture. likely a persistent graph database that actually maps out the complex relationships between different code files. So the agent truly remembers the whole project structure, not just the last 10 lines of text it generated.
So it's finally moving from a goldfish short-term memory to actual long-term memory.
Exactly. And that reliability is what actually makes these autonomous agents profitable to run.
Speaking of making things actually work in the enterprise, let's talk about the plumbing. It is unsexy, but we saw a massive amount of movement in corporate data organization this week. Glean, for instance.
Glean is rapidly becoming the Google search for the modern enterprise. Because before you can have a really smart chatbot, you need an underlying search engine that can actually locate your messy PDFs, your scattered Slack messages, your old Jira tickets. Glean is building that foundational retrieval layer.
And SurrealDB 3.0.
They're actively trying to consolidate the ArcGIS stack. Right now, if a developer wants to build a reliable AI app, they need to stitch together a vector database, a graph database, a traditional relational database. It's an absolute mess of integrations. SurrealDB is basically saying, hey, we can do all of that natively in one single platform. It's a huge move towards simplification.
And we actually saw a real-world case study of this from NutriKnife Solutions. They are a massive global agriculture company.
And they are aggressively pivoting from integration chaos to digital clarity. This really is the overarching theme of enterprise tech in 2026. The cute experimentation phase is completely over. CIOs are realizing they have 50 different AI pilot programs running. None of them actually talk to each other, and the underlying data is a complete swamp. Now they are aggressively buying the plumbing companies like Glean, SurrealDB, NISA, just to clean up the mess.
So the enterprise world is frantically trying to lock things down and organize, but the government, well, the government is seemingly at total war with itself over this stuff. Section 4, the OpenClaw saga and regulatory friction.
The OpenClaw story is absolutely fascinating because it so perfectly encapsulates the dual-use nature of modern AI.
Let's break it down for the listeners. OpenAI recently acquired, or acqui-hired, really the main creator of OpenClaw, Peter Steinberger.
OpenClaw was a very, very powerful open-source tool. It essentially allowed AI agents to natively browse the web, interact with UI buttons, fill out complex forms. It was the digital hands for the AI's brain. OpenAI clearly wants that specific talent in-house because they desperately want their own agents to be able to autonomously do things on the internet.
But at the exact same time they were buying it, Meta and several other major tech giants outright banned OpenClaw from accessing their platforms.
Because if you are the security team at Meta, you look at OpenClaw and you do not see a helpful digital assistant. You see a scraping bot on absolute steroids. You see an automated tool that can easily bypass your CAPI CCHAs, scrape all your proprietary user data, or spin up thousands of fake accounts in minutes.
So one company's glorious agentic future is another company's severe cybersecurity threat.
Precisely. And this friction is only going to increase dramatically. As these agents get better at navigating the web like humans, websites are going to get much more aggressive at trying to block them. The internet might literally fracture into authenticated human zones and walled-off bot zones.
And the regulators trying to manage all this are clearly confused. We saw the European Parliament, the very body that literally wrote and passed the AI Act, explicitly ban AI tools on their own lawmakers' devices.
The irony here is so thick you could cut it with a knife.
Yeah.
They spent years lecturing the tech industry, telling us the AI Act makes AI safe for everyone. And then their own internal IT department takes one look at the actual tools, ChatGPT, Copilot, and says, whoa, this is way too dangerous for our sensitive data. Block it all.
It's the ultimate do as I say, not as I do.
It reveals a profound lack of actual confidence. If the very people passing the laws don't trust the technology, even after they regulated it, why should the general public?
And over in the U.S., we have a different kind of fight. Anthropic is arguing with the Pentagon.
This is a classic Silicon Valley culture clash. The Pentagon obviously wants to use the absolute best AI models for intelligence analysis, global logistics, maybe even tactical strategy. But Anthropic has built its entire corporate brand on constitutional AI models that are hard-coded to refuse to help with violence or harm. So you have the U.S. military saying, hey, help us plan this operation, and the AI is literally responding, I'm sorry, that violates my constitution.
And meanwhile, Elon Musk's xAI is facing serious questions from regulators about whether safety is completely dead over there.
xAI is taking the exact opposite approach to Anthropic. Maximum truth-seeking, extremely few guardrails. The EU absolutely hates it, the AI safety purists hate it, but there's clearly a massive market for it, especially if the Pentagon gets tired of Anthropic constantly saying no to them.
It is Honestly, a total mess. We've got enterprise security breaches, 80% price wars, government hypocrisy. It's a lot to take in for 1 week.
It really is. It's a heavy, heavy news cycle.
And honestly, sometimes when I sit back and look at all this, the hundreds of billions of dollars flying around, the severe surveillance risks, the regulatory chaos, I just want to retreat for a bit. I want to go back to a simpler time, put on some good analog music, maybe just watch a game and unplug.
I think everyone feels a bit of that nostalgia right now.
Yeah.
The future is just coming at us way too fast.
And that is exactly why I am genuinely excited about our sponsor today, Old Glory.
This is definitely a perfect fit for the current mood.
If you are anything like me, you love music, you love sports, but you absolutely hate the modern merch experience. You buy a shirt at a concert for $50, you wash it exactly once, and it shrinks into a weird crop top. Or the front print just immediately flakes off.
Or it's just made of some cheap, drop-shipped synthetic fabric that literally feels like plastic on your skin.
Exactly. Old Glory is the complete antidote to that. They have been a family-owned business since 1969. They are based right here in the U.S., up in Connecticut. They aren't some faceless algorithm optimizing for margin. They are real people who genuinely love this stuff.
And their catalog is incredibly deep.
Over 300,000 officially licensed items. And I mean everything. Led Zeppelin, Metallica, Nirvana. If you want that one specific vintage tour shirt from 1994, they probably have the exact design in stock.
And they have sports covered too, right?
Oh, yeah. NFL, NBA, NHL. And here's the really important thing for me. Comfort. I absolutely hate sweating when I sleep. I need a tee or a hoodie that is incredibly soft, breathable, and feels lived in from day one. Old Glory specializes in that premium vintage feel. It is quite literally comfort food for your wardrobe.
It sounds like a great place to pick up gifts, honestly.
Absolutely. You have a dad who aggressively loves the Chicago Bears. Done. A sister who constantly quotes The Office. They have massive pop culture sections, too. Really fast shipping, fantastic quality.
And you have a discount code for the listener.
We do, and they told us this is the highest exclusive discount they currently offer anywhere, 15% off any product on the site.
15% is really solid.
You just need to use our promo code IMAGINOR. Let me spell that out so you get it right. IMAGINOR.
Imaginor.
Go to oldglory.com. That is OLDGLRY.com. Use code IMAGINOR at checkout. Get yourself a ridiculously comfortable hoodie, put on some noise-canceling headphones, and just tune out the AI revolution for a few hours.
You definitely deserve a break from the discourse.
All right, ad break over. Back to the future.
Yeah.
And section 6 is where things start getting, well, weird. Science, robotics, and the weird economy.
This specific section usually has the most mind-bending stories we cover, and this week absolutely did not disappoint.
Let's start with Rent-A-Human.
Yeah. This one is wild.
I really need you to explain this to me slowly. Bots hiring humans.
Okay, so think about the current structure of the economy. Humans use software tools to do things. You hire an AI agent to write an email or draft code. Rent-A-Human completely flips that dynamic. It is a live digital marketplace where autonomous AI agents can actively post gig jobs for actual humans to complete.
What kind of jobs could a bot possibly need me to do?
Basically, things that AI still physically sucks at. So a bot might post. Go to this physical street address in London and take a photo of the storefront to visually verify it actually exists. Or call this specific customer service phone number and navigate the confusing human phone tree because my speech-to-text algorithm can't understand the heavy accent. Or even just, hey human, manually solve this complex visual KPTCHA for me.
Wait, so the bot has its own wallet. It pays people.
Yes, it likely uses a crypto wallet or a dedicated micropayment API account. The bot is running its code, it encounters a physical or visual blocker it cannot solve. So it automatically calls the Rent-A-Human API, posts a microbounty, say 50 cents, and a human sitting somewhere in the world gets a ping on their phone, does the physical task, uploads the proof, and the bot automatically releases the funds to pay them.
I really don't know how to feel about this. We are literally becoming the mechanical Turk layer for the software itself.
We are becoming the premium plugin for the AI. Think about the philosophical shift here. In this new ecosystem, biological human intelligence is just a fallback service for artificial intelligence. It is the ultimate evolution of the gig economy. You aren't working for Uber anymore. You are working directly for an autonomous script that just needs a pair of eyeballs for 30 seconds.
It's undeniably efficient, I guess, but it feels incredibly dystopian.
It is the completely logical conclusion of agentic AI. If an agent is designed to be truly autonomous and goal-oriented, it needs to be able to dynamically solve its own problems. And sometimes the cheapest, fastest solution is just renting a human for a minute.
Okay, while the bots are busy hiring humans for their eyes, other physical robots are actually learning to move exactly like us. We saw Alibaba release some crazy research this week on perceptive humanoid parkour.
Parkour. Literally backflips, vaulting over physical obstacles.
Why, though? Is there really a huge commercial market for ninja robots?
It isn't about the ninja moves themselves. It's about motion matching and physical robustness. If a bipedal robot can successfully execute a backflip and perfectly stick the landing on a narrow balance beam, it means its internal mathematical model of real-world physics and gravity is incredibly advanced. It means that tomorrow, when you put that exact same robot in a busy factory and it accidentally trips over a power cable, it isn't going to just fall over and potentially crush a human worker. It will instantly rebalance and catch itself. The parkour is just an extreme stress test for the physics engine.
And to get these robots to truly understand the messy real world, we obviously need more than just text-based language models. That brings us to World Labs.
This is Fei-Fei Li's highly anticipated new startup. She's an absolute legend in the AI space, basically the godmother of computer vision and ImageNet. She just raised $200 million from Autodesk and a few others.
And they are building something called spatial intelligence.
This is the critical next frontier. ChatGPT deeply understands text. Sora understands 2D video pixels. World Labs wants to build foundational models that inherently understand 3D space, physics, geometry, and object permanence.
So the AI natively knows that if I drop a glass on a tile floor, it shatters.
Yes, and it inherently knows that the glass has a backside that you currently can't see from your angle. It knows how to virtually manipulate objects in true 3D space. This is absolutely crucial for advanced robotics, for architecture, for industrial design. Text is strictly 1D, images are 2D, but our reality is 3D. World Labs is trying to solve that 3D layer natively.
Moving from physics and robots over to biology. We saw some genuinely incredible medical breakthroughs this week. Let's talk about NeuroSickPippy.
This is such a brilliant practical application of new tech. NeurS, which stands for neural radiance fields, are usually used by high-end video game designers or VFX artists to generate photorealistic 3D scenes from a handful of 2D photos. Medical researchers are now applying this exact same tech to endoscopy.
So when a surgeon puts that little camera inside your body,
Usually that live camera feed is totally flat. It's 2D, and it can be very hard for the surgeon to accurately gauge depth inside the body cavity. Neuroscopy takes that flat video feed and uses AI to build a real-time, highly accurate 3D reconstruction of the surrounding tissue, the tumor, the organs. It basically allows the surgeon to digitally see around the corner in real time to truly understand the depth of a delicate cut before they make it.
that is genuinely life-saving technology.
It absolutely is. And so are digital twins. We saw detailed reports this week on using AI to create highly accurate digital twins of individual patients dealing with diabetes and obesity.
Yeah.
The idea is you simulate the patient's exact unique metabolism inside the computer. You test a new medication regime on the digital twin to see exactly what happens to their virtual blood sugar. And then you prescribe the optimal dose to the real human.
It takes all the dangerous guesswork out of the medicine.
It fundamentally moves modern medicine from trial and error to simulate and solve.
And what about MacroGuide?
This one is for complex drug discovery. It focuses on generating macrocycles. These are very large, complex, ring-shaped molecules that are incredibly good at precisely targeting difficult diseases like aggressive cancers, but they are notoriously hard for human chemists to design from scratch. MacroGuide uses generative AI to essentially dream up entirely new, stable macrocycles that human chemists hadn't even considered yet.
See, this is the high-stakes utility that we always try to highlight on the deep dive. It is so easy to get distracted by the funny chat bots and the video generation memes, but curing disease is where the actual undeniable value of this tech is.
Absolutely. However, as analysts, we have to aggressively temper all this optimism with the physical environmental reality. There was a major controversy this week regarding greenwashing.
Right, Wired magazine came out absolutely swinging.
They did. For a while now, big tech companies, specifically Microsoft and Google, have been running PR campaigns saying, yes, our new data centers use a massive amount of power. But the AI we are building will eventually help us optimize the global energy grid so much that it'll end up being a net positive for climate change.
Yeah.
Wired basically looked at that and said, show us the receipts.
And what did the receipts show?
The receipts are extremely thin right now. The reality is, carbon emissions from these massive tech companies are currently skyrocketing to meet AI compute demand. The eventual promise of AI-optimized nuclear fusion or next-gen battery tech is definitely there, and we actually did see a legitimate research paper on photovoltaic power forecasting this week that proves AI can predict solar farm output much better, which does help balance the grid. But right now, today, we're literally burning more coal and natural gas just to train these language models. That is just an undeniable fact.
So the jury's still very much out on the climate impact.
The jury is out, and the judge is extremely skeptical.
Let's move to our final section for today. Section 7, Culture, Content, and the Future. And we really have to start with Hollywood because they are deeply unhappy again.
When are they not unhappy about tech? But this time, it's specifically about Seedance 2.0.
This is a massive new video generation tool that just launched.
With incredibly high fidelity. You type in a prompt, like a futuristic neon city in the pouring rain, and you get a stunning, literally movie-quality video clip in seconds.
And the major studios are furious.
They are mad about two very distinct things. Number one, the underlying training data. Did Seedance secretly ingest the entire Warner Brothers movie catalog to mathematically learn what a cinematic futuristic city is supposed to look like? If they did, where is the massive licensing check? And number two, the terrifying potential for deepfakes of their contracted actors.
We are really seeing this IP issue becoming the ultimate bottleneck.
Intellectual property is the absolute defining battleground of 2026. The generative tech is completely ready to deploy. The copyright lawyers are not. If an average user can generate a perfect brand new season of The Sopranos with a simple text prompt, who legally owns that video file? The random person who wrote the prompt, HBO. The legal estate of James Gandolfini. No one actually knows the answer yet, and until the courts figure it out, this incredible tech is just stuck in a massive legal gray zone.
While the highly paid lawyers fight over TV shows, the actual students are fleeing the tech industry. We saw a disturbing report this week on the great computer science exodus.
This is a very concerning long-term trend. University enrollment in traditional CS degrees is dropping sharply. Smart students are looking at autonomous coding tools like Quoto and Devon and saying to themselves, why on earth did I spend 4 expensive years learning basic Python syntax if a $20 bot can do it instantly and better by the time I graduate?
Or are they right to be scared?
They are right that the traditional junior developer role is completely dying. The entry-level job of just write this basic function for me is gone forever. But they are totally wrong about the software industry as a whole. The valuable human job isn't disappearing. It is aggressively shifting to system architect, or basically a product manager who knows how to fluently speak code to an AI.
And we saw massive proof of that exact shift this week with a new startup called Emergent.
Based over in India. They just hit $100 million in annual recurring revenue ARR in just 8 months of existence. That is an unheard of speed for a software company to scale.
And they are built entirely on vibe coding, right?
That is the popular term for it, yeah. Basically, it's natural language programming. You just tell the AI the general vibe or the broad business logic of what you want. You say, hey, I want a data dashboard that visually looks exactly like Spotify, but it tracks my personal stock portfolio. And the AI just builds the whole thing. This radically allows people who do not know a single line of syntax to build highly complex software. Emergent proves that the global human demand for custom software is basically infinite. The only historical barrier was the actual coding language.
So the act of coding isn't dead at all. It's just literally changing languages. It's moving from Python to plain English.
Exactly. English is the hottest new programming language.
But there is definitely a dark side to all this easily automated content. Let's talk about the scams.
Google search is in serious trouble right now. We saw reports indicating that Google AI overviews, those little AI-generated summaries at the very top of the search page, are being actively manipulated by scammers.
How exactly are they doing that?
The scammers are mass-generating fake AI-written websites with highly optimized SEO, specifically designed to trick Google's AI scraper. So you search for something like Delta Airlines customer support number. The Google AI confidently reads those fake sites and presents you with a phone number in bold text at the top of your screen. You trustingly call it, and it's actually a scammer in a completely different country who tricks you and steals your credit card info.
Because the AI blindly trusts the scrape source.
And you implicitly trust the giant Google AI. It's an incredibly effective trust laundering scheme. And this absolute collapse of trust is exactly why Pinterest is currently developing their new decision quality framework.
What exactly does that framework do?
It's a fundamental new way to audit their internal AI recommendations. Instead of just maximizing raw user engagement, which, as we know, usually just leads to promoting toxic clickbait or rage bait that you're trying to mathematically measure, did this specific AI recommendation actually help the human user make a good, healthy decision? It's a desperate industry move towards prioritizing actual quality over sheer algorithmic quantity.
Which, frankly, we desperately need a lot more of across the board.
Desperately.
Well, we have covered a truly staggering amount of ground today. From the $200 billion of concrete being poured in India to the 11% precision boost that is finally curing agent amnesia. From the bots actively hiring humans on Rent-A-Human to the college students completely quitting computer science.
It really feels like a uniquely pivotal week in the timeline.
It really does. So I want to wrap up today's deep dive with a little thought experiment based directly on what we just discussed.
Let's hear it.
We talked heavily about Rent-A-Human humans doing the mundane physical tasks that the bots still can't figure out. We talk about vibe coding humans just providing the initial creative spark while the bots handle the tedious code execution. And we talked about the great divergence in global infrastructure. Here's the question I've been chewing on. Are we rapidly moving into a world where we, humans, are no longer the active operators of our technology, but rather we are becoming the premium plugins for it? Are we essentially just the biological app store that the AI system taps into whenever it needs a burst of creativity, or a pair of physical hands, or a verified bank account to solve its own problems?
That is an incredibly humbling thought. I mean, we spent the last 50 years building the personal computer to be a bicycle for the human mind. Now, the human mind might literally be becoming a temporary tool for the computer to rent.
Definitely something to think deeply about while you wear your comfortable old glory hoodie and try to pretend it's still 1999.
Indeed. Highly recommended.
Listeners, we really want to hear your personal take on all of this. Would you willingly work for a robot boss on Rent-A-Human for 50 cents a task? Do you think the traditional CS degree is actually dead? Leave a comment below and let's get into it.
And please don't forget the basics. Like and subscribe on YouTube. It really does help us keep the lights on and the servers running.
Check out the main website for the full written deep dives and all the data. That's imaginary.com. Let me spell again. imaginari.com.
And definitely go to magallilabs.news for all the original source material we pulled from today.
If you enjoyed this conversation and learned something, buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/imaginary. The link is right there in the description.
Until next week, keep watching The Wires.
Stay curious, everyone. Goodbye.